Check Podcasts. Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. This is Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from the podcasting studios with the Czech Media Group, one of our chamber champions. I would like to acknowledge, as always, that I live and work in the unceded ancestral territories of the Lekwungen people, known to us as the Songhees and the Esquimalt. And Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. There's a guy that we like to check in with on a regular basis because of what the institution that he represents in this community. And that is the University of Victoria. The president and the vice chancellor is Dr. Kevin Hall, and he joins us again. Welcome back.
Thanks, Bruce. Great to be here and have a chat this afternoon. And by the way, thanks for that territorial acknowledgement. It's really important that we do that. And I'd pay my respects to elders past and present. And really, as an institution, we're committed to using the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which I think it's unique to BC in this country, as a framework to really try to make a difference in reconciliation.
Yes, thank you for those words. You know what? We're the chamber. We represent business and the economy and all that stuff. And I always like to remind people through you that UVic is so many things, but in addition to all that you are and all that you do, the economic driver that you are in this community is nothing short of breathtaking. Let's talk about the impact you have on the economy.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. And certainly, as a university, we aspire to make change in our region. That change can be social change, it can be change to the environment, but also, being an economic driver is important to us. And we, of course, do that through a number of mechanisms. We have students here who come, 20,000 students at our university, a combination of international and domestic. They come, they live here, they, of course, use the resources in the city, they use the restaurants, the nightlife. And so that's a big piece of our contribution. But, on the other hand, we've also got a campus that really prides itself on solving problems, doing research to really solve issues and problems for people that live in and around this region. And that has its economic spin-offs. We help companies solve problems to make better products. We help not-for-profits deal with issues around homelessness in a way that's perhaps better. And so it's really important for us to be attuned to what the community wants and needs. And I guess on the last piece is we bring opportunities into the city. We have a number of people who invest in some of our businesses and our startups. We have people who bring their companies here to be co-located or close to the university. And part of our look to the future that we're really thrilled about is really our new strategic plan that we're building. And it stresses the importance of partnerships, true, deep, meaningful, two-way partnerships where we learn from each other. And that really is a characteristic of UVic. And we want to make sure people in Victoria think of us as a university of the region, of the university of the city. And so certainly that, getting back to the original question, the economic driver, it's important for us to make sure we continue to create economic activity in this region.
I mean, Fred, you pay a lot of people too, and you hire a lot of people, and you create a lot of economic activity with services and products that the university uses.
Well, thanks for reminding me of that. I did forget that one. Of course, we have 5,000 employees at the university, and I don't know the exact number, but I suspect our payroll is pretty close to around $300 million a year in that ballpark. And as you mentioned, that does create a group of people that have money to spend in this region and money to contribute. So yeah.
20. You're a town. Really, you're a town with a ring road.
We are a town. Like, when you look at all of us, when all of our students are here and all of our faculty and staff are on campus, we are literally a city of about 27,000 people. Yeah.
So issues that come across our desk all the time at the chamber are what people hear about in the news here on Czech and other places too. But housing is a huge deal. It's a huge challenge. At the same time, it's an opportunity. But right now, it's creating a problem because of the lack of housing, and that's having people with issues with attracting and retaining employees. So you have an announcement at UVic about the Ian Stewart complex that was made a short time ago. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this is part of our contribution to solving the housing problem because, of course, housing affects our students. It affects our ability to recruit staff and faculty. And, the Ian Stewart complex for us is a piece of what we call outlying land. It's not on our main campus, it's just across the street. We have a couple of other properties we're looking at, and we want to build projects which contribute to the housing pool. So some of the housing may be directed towards students, which will mean there'll be housing open up in the city because our students will be agglomerating close to campus, which is where they really want to be. And some of the housing that we build will be for people in this city. We might be looking at a mix of 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments and done in a kind of sustainable living type of way. And so we're really trying to push the concept that we can utilize some of our land that we won't be using for university buildings to actually try to help and address the housing issue from a couple of fronts.
Yeah, so that's a problem-solving thing. So one of the other things you and I have spoken about, and the Chamber has undertaken a great deal of advocacy on this lately, is the concept of creating on-campus housing. A lot of students living in a lot of apartments across the city. Camosun has no on-campus housing. You have capacity for more. But I'm not sure everybody understands some of the barriers involved in that with government, because you're not allowed to carry debt. You can't borrow money the way anybody else would to create housing. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think this is a piece of government policy that avoids them carrying debt from public entities like universities. There are a couple of instances where this has been relaxed. UBC and Simon Fraser University, who have both developed housing complexes on their own lands, and UBC is very famous for its endowment lands. And so, for us to go ahead with a project like the Ian Stewart complex, we have to be able to carry debt because, quite frankly, we don't have cash reserves to build these projects out. So we're going to either have to borrow money, raise a green bond, or work with a developer. Either way, putting housing on those properties results in us carrying the debt because we own the property. And so the government's trying to avoid that transfer. But I think, there's been some great movement with our discussions with the government because the importance of UVic contributing to the housing solution in Victoria. And I know certainly this new cabinet, this new government are really going after housing in an aggressive way. I think it's one of the priorities for Premier Eby, certainly Minister of Housing, Ravi Kahlon, and now, Lisa Helps, the former mayor, being appointed as a housing special advisor. I think signals that the government is really serious about trying to solve this housing problem and recognition that the university should and could be a big player in solving this housing, I think is starting to resonate with the government. So we hope we'll see that restriction slowly released as we move through this year.
Yeah, as I say, we've done advocacy about that too. And the issue that came up as well about creating housing on the land at CFB Esquimalt is another conversation we've been having too, saying that it's a good idea. Because when you look at all the people that work on the base and the people who go to UVic and Camosun, they're living, if some of that housing was freed up for workforce, that would solve a lot of problems. But the other side of it is, you don't have to buy the land because you've got the land. You just got to put the building up.
That's absolutely right. So we're a big campus. Even within our own what we call the ring road, of course, we've still got a number of building sites and parking lots, but we do have these remote properties. We've got approximately 50 acres altogether of property that's kind of outside the university, and this is where we should be looking at contributing to the community pool of housing.
Some very good news was given to part of UVic a short time ago. I want to talk about that next. Our guest on Chamber Chats today is Dr. Kevin Hall. He's the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Victoria. Ocean Networks Canada, one of the coolest organizations around. We've done podcasting with them too. They do such good stuff, but they just got a big bag of money, and that's for a good cause, right?
Absolutely. They actually got 2 big bags of money. First of all, they were lucky enough to have their funding secured through the Canada Foundation for Innovation. So this is a grant that keeps them afloat, if you like, for 5 years. But as most federal government funding it requires a matching fund. And this is where we've really struggled over the years. And so just recently announced by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans that they would provide the match funding for the next 5 years. And so that's in the form of about $50 million for that pool of money. And the money coming from the Canadian Foundation for Innovation was about $106 million, which was actually the largest funded project in Canada through this latest round of the Canadian Foundation for Innovation. So in total, we're looking at about $160 million that would be put into ONC to push it forward for the next 5 years. And I think that's a great recognition for the amazing work that's being done by ONC. And, it's one of these treasures that Victoria should be so proud about. And I think we've got the opportunity to build economic development around the work of ONC, right? If we start thinking about where we're located on the west coast of Canada, about as far west as you can go on the Pacific Rim, and the interest in the blue economy and oceans, it just seems to make sense that we need to take advantage of the fact that the federal government is contributing that money to ONC, and then how can we use that to leverage spin-offs, other types of research and development that may help drive the blue economy.
Yeah, I mean, our planet is only going to be as healthy as our oceans and seas are, and they're not very healthy. And Ocean Networks Canada is doing all this really worthwhile work about that. So if you haven't ever gone to their website, just Google it, Ocean Networks Canada, doing amazing things. So when we talk about areas of study, you and I have chatted about this in the past, certain areas of study and curriculum kind of shifted their importance throughout the pandemic and as we emerge. So tell me about some of the shifts and priorities for curriculum right now.
Yeah, I would say, the one that's the most obvious, of course, is healthcare.
Hmm.
I think we learned through the pandemic that our healthcare system, at best, is stressed. Perhaps doesn't have all the different types of professionals that it needs, and so at the university, certainly the number of seats in our healthcare professions has increased. The government has been very generous to support the growth of some of our programs. We're actually working on a really exciting health initiative to consolidate our health activities into kind of one structure, perhaps an institute or a faculty. So that's the kind of the obvious area. The other piece is around technology, and the government has also recognized the importance of technology in the healthcare system, in the mining sector, in the forestry sector, in clean tech and med tech, and so the government's put on another few thousand what's called tech seats, and we've certainly put in a request for a large portion of those seats. Computer science, electrical engineering are the two big areas where the government wants to invest, and so we're seeing just an explosion of interest in computer science in particular. Computer science, of course, then spans across many of these disciplines. It spans across healthcare with health informatics and data science, and it's great to see that connectivity. I think the other piece we're really trying to think about is how do we contribute again to the local economy? What types of programs should we have, and is there a way we can finish off some of our degrees that creates graduates that are very skilled for some of the local companies? And certainly we have Canada's second largest co-op outside of Waterloo, and that places about 6,000 students a year. That gives local industry and business a chance to work with these students, but we'd actually starting to think about what we're seeing overseas, which is, let's take engineering, for example. In fourth year, could you do a finishing year that is aligned with a local employer who employs a large number of engineers? And so could you tailor the program to get graduates to have the skills that are useful to those local employers? And so we're starting to have those conversations. I guess on the third part for me is the role of the university in upskilling and reskilling the workforce locally and across the province, and done through this new buzzword that we use called micro credentials. How can we contribute to the economy by taking people already working in corporations and businesses and improving their skills? And this can be done either on a really large scale basis, and we're working right now with Canadian Border Security on artificial intelligence and cybersecurity programs to upskill their workforce. But I had a young man come to me the other day who has a small local company of 30 people. He said, "I love the people I've got, but I don't have enough skills to keep the business moving forward. So can you come and deliver some skills training to my existing employees and give them a few skills around software development or computer programming, because I don't want to lose them, but we have to do this work. And if we don't do this work, we won't remain relevant." And so the university is really trying to think of how do we plug in to local businesses and corporations and not-for-profits to help create the skilled labor and the skilled workforce that's needed as we move forward in this province.
Yeah, and you and I have talked in the past about the value of co-op, and that's because we do it at the Chamber. We bring co-op students in
Yeah.
all the time. And in fact, I think I have 4 staff members right now that came to us initially as co-op students. So it's you get to know each other for that period of time, and then you see whether it's a fit going forward for creation of an employment opportunity. So here we are using technology to have this conversation today, and the pandemic has brought forward technology in a way like it hasn't in the past. And when we talk about what Ocean Networks Canada was doing, there's other things happening at UVic that are directly related to mitigating climate change right now. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I would say, for me, one of the things that attracted me to come to UVic was the fact that it had this reputation for being sustainable, and for looking at issues around climate and climate solutions. And so that's always been a large focus of UVic, and we're certainly trying to, again, consolidate that focus, build some more strength around it. I think what's really important for us is understanding what the impacts of climate change are on weather systems, and then how the weather systems impact things like flooding, building design, bridges, highways, health, well-being. And so we're trying to link all these pieces of climate change and then climate solutions, because there's no denying climate change is occurring. I think there's still a few people denying it, but in general, we're
Yeah.
not denying it. But what we have to do is look at mitigation. And so we're actually trying to work on how do we prepare the province? How do we prepare an emergency system to respond to some of these significant issues around climate change in the future? How do we change the way we build perhaps housing, or we build large-scale developments to adapt to the climate change that's going on? Um, we are really trying to work across the province as well. We're very good at what we do at UVic, but we realize we're not going to be the only part of the solution. So we're trying to partner with other universities and colleges across the province, and trying to look at how can we develop the next generation of thought leaders around climate and climate change, and how can we provide immediate solutions in the present time to solve some of these issues that keep cropping up now every summer. And we've got all these new buzzwords we use, like the atmospheric river and the heat dome and whatever the snow one is. These are real events that are affecting all of us as British Columbians, as Canadians, and these are things that we are going to have to come to grips with. The other piece I think is really exciting, we got some work going on in kelp. The kelp as a resource to help rejuvenate and grow forestry, but also kelp as a CO2 sink. Kelp absolutely absorb tons of CO2, and there's thoughts that kelp farms along coastlines can actually really help reduce CO2 in the atmosphere. And so I think people here are just looking at innovative ways of trying to sequester CO2, eradicate CO2, eliminate it at the source, but then acknowledging that we're not going to do this overnight, so we do have to come up with solutions.
Yeah, and again, Ocean Networks Canada is doing work on carbon capture as well, so that's another reason to go check them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we move forward, as we create whatever our new normal is going to be, one part of that normal at UVic is the Vikes are back. I want to talk about that. Talk about that next. Our guest on Chamber Chats today is Dr. Kevin Hall. He's the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Victoria. So the Vikes back, full speed, full speed ahead. What's the importance of athletics in a post-secondary atmosphere and environment?
Yeah, so it takes a long time to answer if you think of all the things. But let me just say, there's two pieces that we look at here. First of all, is the Vikes. So they are the so-called elite athletes on campus. So the ones that go and compete across the country. And what amazes me is to see these kids that do this come up at the top of the academic spectrum. And so the combination of high performance athletics and academic performance has actually been demonstrated for years and years. And so it's great to see these young athletic people have some great minds as well. Secondly, the spill-off effect into having facilities for the Vikes means that we have great facilities for our students. And our goal is to have all of our students get out there and use our CARSA gym in whatever form it is to be physically active, because the link between physical activity and your success at a university has also been well shown. And so it's part of a mental health regime. It's part of a healthy lifestyle regime. And so I think, the importance of having the ability of all students, if they wish, to have some form of athletic or physical activity experience at the university. It's critical to the success of the students at the university. Students and staff and faculty, I might add, too. It's often you can go over there and see old timers like me ruining parts of our bodies like our knees. And, it's important to have those facilities for all of our people. And I think the other piece is the Vikes. Get out into the community as well. We're trying to do more of that, to get out to talk to kids in public school and high school, to be role models for physical health and physical fitness. So it's just an important part of a university's, I think, contribution to the region as well.
It's a really strong connection to alumni as well, who stay connected through that network. And alumni, of course, are people that are also a big part of creating the philanthropy that happens at a post-secondary. And as many know, I have a history of doing some fundraising for post-secondaries. But, the money doesn't all come from the government. Alumni and other people have the opportunity to invest in what happens at UVic, and alumni are a big part of that, right?
we generate, you know, $25 million a year on giving through both alumni and other types of philanthropy. And so alumni giving is really important. But I actually think alumni connection is the most important thing. And so what we're really trying to do over the last year is reconnect with more of our alumni, not just send them a letter when we want to ask them for money, but to actually stay in continual contact from the time they graduate. You know, sending out emails saying, "Hey, Bruce, would you like to come to campus and give a lecture to a group of students in how to organize businesses or how to do podcasts? Hey, Bruce, you know, do you have any colleagues across the country that could benefit from this micro credential? Or you know, we've got a lot of international alumni that we want to connect with them and connect with their businesses and help solve some of their business problems. We want to connect alumni to alumni, a business to business. So we want to create this network of really engaged alumni. And so, you know, where are we in that journey? We're not bad at our alumni, our alumni activities, but we could be much better. And we're really trying to focus on, you know, keeping that sense of pride in the university from the time you graduate to the time you're going to retire, and to be thinking about the university as a place not just to give money, but to maybe come back and upgrade your skills. Come back and take a night course that you're interested in. Come back and meet some of your classmates. Come back and mentor a student startup, for example. And so we're really trying to focus on driving great engagement with our alumni and deep and meaningful two-way engagement.
And when you talk about the impact that UVic has, chances are the person that is managing your finances is a UVic grad. The person who's teaching your kids could well be a UVic grad. So that kind of resonance is present all the way through our entire economy. It's always a pleasure to catch up. We appreciate your time, and we will probably talk again in a few months to see what's going on. In the meantime, stay well. Dr. Kevin Hall is the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Victoria. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bruce.
I'm Bruce Williams, and we'll see you again soon for another Chamber Chat.